Hey guys, this is Chris Powers here, and quite a few people actually have asked me to give some tutorials about how I put together the animations for Full of Eyes. So I guess the first thing to say is the program that we're using. It's Adobe After Effects, and I'm at my workstation at my church right now, so I'm using After Effects CC, but you can do this with After Effects CS6, which is what I have at home, or really any of the older ones too, because what we're going to do is pretty basic. So either you have After Effects, you get the 30-day trial, and you can kind of follow along. So we're in After Effects here. I've got some picture files here, and I guess that raises the first question of how do you get pictures into the computer? What I used to do is draw them by hand on paper, scan them into the computer as either a PDF or a JPEG, and then bring them into After Effects. What I've been doing recently is using this iPad app called Procreate, which is really good. So you can do your draw now. You'd have to be super skilled to make it look like that. But you do your drawing on that. I do my line drawings on Procreate, and then just export them as PSD files, as Photoshop files, and then you put them right into After Effects. So I've found Procreate to be a really good tool for that, but you don't have to use it. I think it's $5.99 on the App Store, yeah. So you can use paper if you want. This is what I use. So anyway, that's Procreate. I exported some files as Photoshop files, and I've got them here in my project manager. And I imported them as compositions, which means each of the layers that I made in Procreate is maintained here in After Effects. And before we get started, let me just direct you to the description of this video. Down there is a link where you can download the Photoshop files that I'm going to be working with. So if you want to follow along with me, just go down there, click the link, download those files, and then you can color them and work along as I work on them in this tutorial. So let's go ahead and start a new composition. We're going to choose HD TV 1080 29.97. You don't have to do 1080. You can do whatever you want. I'm trying to go 1080 from now on my animations. We'll see how that works. So there we go. It's good to put a background in. So just go to Layer. Oh, you can't see. Oh, you can't see up here, but just go up here to Layer, New, and then we're going to do a new solid. And let's make it white-ish. I don't want it fully white, but okay. And we'll name that Solid BG for background. Okay, so now we've got a background, and I will go back up here to the pictures I've scanned in, and let's go to Under the Sun. This is one of the pictures that I just did. I'm going to double click on it to bring up the composition, and okay, Apple Mouse is a little funny sometimes. Okay, so here's the picture. Now it's got all the layers that I drew in Procreate layered on top of themselves. So we can turn off, let's have just this because I want to color this guy in. So we will copy the layer, and then we'll come back over to our original comp here, and we'll paste the layer in. Now it's super big, which is good. We want it to be big. I'll bring him down so that he'll fit into the screen. And there we go. Okay. So then what we do is make a mask. So basically for these animations, I'm making masks all the time. So just mask around the guy or whatever part of the picture you want to focus on. And I should say this, if you are working with a picture that you have just scanned, what you need to do so that it'll have a transparency is once you put the picture on there, you've got to go over here to Mode and switch it to Linear Burn. And it didn't do anything for our picture here because I already have a transparency layer because I made it in Procreate. But if you scanned your picture, you got to go to Linear Burn, and that'll take out all the white and just leave your pen or pencil marks. So bear that in mind if you're doing this with a picture that you drew. Okay, so there we go. We've got him. And what I need to do now is color him in. So the way I do this is just make a new layer, solid layer, and we will pick a skin color for him, something that seems, you know, and this obviously is whatever color you're going for whatever you're making, but I think something around there will be good, and we'll name it skin. Now, I used to do all my color layers as textured layers. So if you look at some of the old animations, there's texture in all the layers. I'm trying to move away from that. I think that it'll look a little bit cleaner if I do it without texture, but that's just a preference thing. You can, what's neat about this style of coloring is that you can color somebody in with pretty much anything you want, because you're making this whole layer is going to be the color of his skin, so this layer could conceivably be whatever I wanted it to be. So we go in here, and this is where it gets really tiresome. Not tiresome, but just it takes a long time. So you've got to make a mask. Oh, I should let you know, up here is your tools. V will take me back to my basic arrow. This little guy here is my mask tool. So make a mask, and all you have to do that is start clicking. And what this is doing is on the skin layer. So I have my skin layer selected, and then I select my mask tool, and then what I'm doing is starting to basically chop up that layer in the shape that I want it to be. So you just go around your outline that you made, and you're telling the layer where you want it to end, where you want to cut out some parts of it. So I'll speed this up so you don't have to watch me do the whole thing. It does take a little bit of time. Just got to be precise. And this is a good time to listen to a sermon or to listen to, if you've got a book on tape, my iPad can read the Bible to me, or music or whatever. It's just kind of mindless work, but it's got to be done. So I try to redeem that time with listening to something that is stimulating. So if you try to do animations like this is a great time to listen to that thing you've always wanted to listen to. But since you're not doing it right now, I will go ahead and speed the video up and meet you back here when I'm done. Okay, so here we have the mask cut around our person here. Now what you'll notice is that the mask doesn't look so good through here, but that's okay because I'm going to put another layer over to be these shorts here. It'll cover up all that. So when you're making these masks to color in your picture, you got to think with layers. So this brown layer is going to be lower than my shorts layer, which means that all this stuff here will be covered up. Now you might wonder, okay, why not just color it in your picture? Why not color it in Procreate or color it on paper and then scan it in pre-colored? Why take all this time? One of the reasons is because this gives you a lot more freedom to do whatever you want with the mask. So say I'll bring in this background here, and now say I wanted to have this color, all this black and white color, show up through the skin as if, you know, something interesting were going on. So I would just go down here to the backgrounds, the thing that I just put, this black and white thing, I just put it underneath the skin. I go over here to Track Matte, and you click Alpha Matte Skin. So I'm going to alpha matte the skin layer, and it gives me this interesting look. And then what you could do if you wanted to was move around this background beneath, here, let me show you here. Move around the background beneath the skin so it stays within the bounds of the mask I just made, but it looks like it's moving. in him. So that can give you some good, it just gives you freedom for different effects that you might want to do in your animation. So that's why I like to do each color layer separately and mask them out in After Effects like this. All right, so let's make his shorts here. New, solid, make it something kind of like old, worn fabric. So maybe that, and we'll call it shorts. Okay, now it just covered everything up because as you see down here, the shorts layer is on top of everything. So we bring it down and put it just over our skin layer. And then I'm going to have to jump in here and cut around it again. All right, so there we go. So now you got the guy, he's wearing his shorts, he's colored in. That works. So we'll fit it here. Okay, now here's the thing. Right now, all these layers are loose, so if I grab, and in fact, let's name this layer, hit enter, and you can name it Walker, because he's walking. It doesn't have anything to do with a Texas Ranger. Okay, so right now I've named that, but if I grab that and move it, his coloring stays by itself, and if I grab and move the shorts, they stay by themselves. So we will go back, and what we need to do is link all this together. So grab the skin, the shorts, go over here to this squiggly mark, and just drag it up and click on the walker. And now they're all linked together. They move as one piece. The other thing to do to help from getting confused, because if you make a bigger animation, you're going to have tons and tons of layers. So I like to select all these and click this color here and just pick a color. So that they're all blue. So now we know that those guys all work together. They're all the same. All right, so that's one element of the animation is done. Now, let's go back. So over here is Under the Sun. That's the Photoshop file where this Walker guy came from. Let's turn his layer off, and we'll bring up these other two layers, and then copy them, and come back here to this main part here, and paste them in. Okay, now remember they're super big, so let's bring down their scale a little bit. All right, now this is kind of like a cave type thing that this guy is walking out of. So another thing for these animations is you have to think as you're drawing them what you want your final product to look like. So I drew him with his hand up because I knew that I was going to, let's have both these rotate together here. So hit R, and it'll let you rotate. Right about there. So I knew that I wanted this guy to be kind of walking out of this cave. And I'll show you. Yeah. Right about like this. So see, he's kind of walking out. He's got his hand on the side there. We take these torn pieces and they will go right about here. So that's what I wanted it to look like, so I drew those pieces separately. Now, what I'm going to have to do is go through and do what so we'll turn our walker off. Select him, hit the eye. So that turns him off. And then we will, just for our sanity's sake, let's name these files. So we'll name this Shreds, because it kind of looks shredded. And we'll name this Cave Mouth. Okay, let's move them to the front. And yes, I'm going to have to go through and color these. So I'm going to do the cave first, and then we'll do the shreds. So layer, new, solid. And here's a little trick for you. Let's just call this filler. Make it white, Okay, put it underneath cave mouth. Now, with filler selected, go to Layer or Effect. Again, sorry you can't see this up here, but I think you'll be able to find it. Up here to Effect, and then down to Color Correction, and we'll put a tint effect on this. And what that does is just let us really quickly and easily change the color. If you just hit Map White, since our whole layer is white, if you hit Map White, you change the color of the whole layer, and it's nice and easy. So let's give this a cavey type color. Maybe get a bluish tint in there and kind of something like this. Okay. And I am making sure my filler layer is selected. I'm going to go up and grab my mask tool and just go in here and trim it out again. All right, now you can see that it colored in my cave. That's not really what I wanted. I wanted it to be on the outside. So go over here, click your filler layer, hit M to bring up your mask controls, and then you can do a number of things. You could turn this to subtract, and then it would cut out the hole, or you could have hit invert, and it would have inverted the hole. Either one. So now we've got, now let's just look at it with our walker guy. So we'll go over here and turn him on. And, okay, so here's an issue. He's behind it. He's on the outside. We want him on the inside. So After Effects renders from top down. So you want to grab, at least, well, let me say it this way. You see things from top down. It's like you're looking from up here down through all your layers. So if you want something to be on the top, you need to bring it up and put it there. Okay. So there's him. And we move his hand here, and you kind of start to see he's, you know, it's not perfect yet, but he's walking, heading out that way. All right, so let's turn on the shreds. And I want to color these in. So go down here to your filler layer. Let's call this cave filler instead of just filler. And then hit it and hit Control or Command D. Copy it. We'll name the copy Shreds Filler. Now we bring that thing we just made up above the cave layer underneath the shreds layer. And I'm going to have to rearrange these layers, but that's okay. We'll do it in a second. Delete the old mask we made. And now we've just got the mask, the layer we just copied underneath the shreds layer. So let's make them a little bit lighter. Turn off our walker here. Okay, now with my shreds filler selected, go in here and I am going to, yes, mask out the color again. All right, let me say something here before I close this mask off. See, I've got two separate things I want to color. And the background, the shreds filler, is behind both of them. So I'm going to close this top mask, and let's turn off our cave. Close the top mask, and now it looks like it's all gone except for here. But really what this mask is doing is just showing us a part of the layer. The layer is still back there. This is all we see though. So I don't need to duplicate it and make another layer to color in this piece of the shred, because remember our layer was behind both of them. So all I have to do is start making a new mask here, as long as I'm still selected on my shreds filler, and you see that it makes a new mask. So why I showed you that is because sometimes you'll have multiple objects that need to be the same color that are like, okay, say you've got a person and they've got pieces of clothing on and all the same. All the clothing is the same, but it's disconnected. You could have one layer that is the color of the clothing, and then you could make multiple masks on that layer so that it shows up in different places. So like what I'm about to show you here, as soon as I finish this off, I don't have to be super specific since I'm just showing you the ropes. So we'll bring this around, close this mask off, and so you can see that now these are basically two windows that are letting us see into the shreds filler layer. So one layer colored in those two different things. Now let's go to the shreds filler, lock it down to shreds, and we'll go to the cave filler, which you can't see right now because I haven't turned it off, but we'll lock it down to cave so that they all move together. Now when we turn on our cave, this doesn't look good, so we need to grab the shreds and shreds filler, bring them behind. Okay, now turn on our walker, and you're starting to get a sense of what we're going for. Now it's just white out there, which isn't very cool, so we'll bring in this background. You could have pictures of clouds or pictures you've taken or whatever. I'm going to use this. So I dropped it, as you can see here, I dropped it underneath everything, so that's why it's out there. We will scale it down. Okay, something like this. And let's go up to Effect, which again, sorry that you can't see it, but it's right up here. Effect, Color Correction, Tritone. And that just lets you, it's like a tint, but it lets you fool around with 3 different tones of color. So I'm going to give this kind of a reddish tone. So he's in this cave looking out in this, it doesn't look inviting out there. This is probably not what it's going to look, well, it's definitely not what it's going to look like in the final animation, but just for the sake of showing. Okay, so now we're ready to give this some 3D look. So go up to Layer, and you're going to go to New Camera. Now it's going to, it will just say Main Camera. Everything's fine there. Now see, it says camera lights do not affect 2D layers. They need to be 3D. That's okay. Okay. We're going to make our layers 3D. Right now they're not. So bring the camera up to the top, Layer, New, Null Object. And what this does is I like to control the camera with a null object, and I'll show you what I mean. So go to the null object, hit Enter, call it Camera Handle, or whatever you want to call it. And then you're going to grab this little squiggly thing and parent the camera to the camera handle. Okay? Now let's make the camera handle 3D. Now if you grab the null object and move it around, you'll actually move the camera, but right now nothing is happening. So let me show you how we can see something happen. Click all the objects we've just made and go over here, see this little 3D box. It means 3D. So click 3D. And there. Okay, so now we just made all our layers 3D. And now if you grab the camera handle and move it around, you see that you're moving, but it doesn't look very three-dimensional. Okay, so we're getting there though. Now here's what we want to do. Grab the walker, or this is just an example about how to make things look three-dimensional. So we're going to grab the walker, and let's do this. Let's take the cave mouth and parent it to the walker, so that as I move him, the mouth will move too. So move him toward the camera, like this. Okay, so see how that's kind of gives a sort of a 3D feel. And let's do this too. Take the cave mouth and the cave filler, Command D, duplicate. Now I've got 2 there. See down here? Cave mouth 2, cave filler 2, cave mouth, cave filler. Grab my cave mouth 2, hit P for position. Then you can push it into space like this. Okay, and that just gives the sense that the cave is a little bit deeper. Maybe rotate it a little bit to give a sense that it's not just an exact duplicate, something like that. And you know what I think you'd even want to do is go to your cave filler for the second cave mouth that we just made and just give it a subtly different color like that, just so that there's some differentiation. Okay, now let's grab the shreds, which are back in 3D space even further. And look, you're starting to see, you're breaking the illusion of reality here. So let's hit S for scale. Scale them up a little bit. And that way you can just kind of see them. Now, last thing we want to do is grab our background, hit P, push it way far back, super far back. And if you hold down Shift and move like this, you can move faster. So push it back there, hit S, scale it up. Okay, now when we grab our camera handle and move it, you've got this 3D sense. I hope you can see that there. And if we zoom in, you know, it looks a little bit like there is actually this cave situation going on. So we can move this up here like this, and you could start here by his head. Now our background has to get a little bigger. Oops, wrong background. Yeah, that's why you should name things different. Name them not just BG and background. So make the background a little bit bigger. You can either drag the camera by its camera handle here, or you can go over here and hit P to bring up your position. So if we do that and we move it in Z space, you get the sense that you're kind of pulling out and he's in this cave and you're pulling back. Okay, now we're almost done. I mean, and again, this is not making a full animation, but it's showing you the basic properties. Let's put some stuff out there though to add to the feeling of 3D. So I have another thing that I exported from Procreate over here. Click it. So let's copy that layer, bring it back. Oh, we don't need that anymore. Bring it back to our main part here, and right on top, underneath Walker, paste our buildings. Now, we can turn off all those other guys. All right. Scale, bring it down, bring it up. Now, for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm just going to grab just one of these buildings and color it really basically. So let's take a mask around this guy, perhaps the most easiest to color. Bonk. All right. Now, got him. We'll do, let's copy our, see, well, that'd be a little, okay, so we got him. Now go up to Layer, New, Solid, and we'll call this Building Filler. Okay. Okay, so I made the solid without saying what color I wanted it to be. So let's go up back to Layer, Solid Settings, and we'll change the solid color. We want it to be something like this. Okay. And let's name this building layer Building. Okay. Same thing I did before. I'm going to select building layer, take my masking tool, go in here and cut the background layer I just created to shape. Okay, there we go. Now, it's not a perfect mask, but it'll work. Now let's make our building. So select building and building filler. And while we're at it, why don't we grab the building filler here, lock it up. And in fact, look at this, I'm not following my own advice. So let's take building and building filler, make them green. Let's take Cave Mouth 2 and make it orange, and say Cave Mouth 1. We will make it Seafoam. Wonderful color. And Shreds, we will make it, how about yellow? Okay, so that just helps, makes it a lot less confusing. I try to be organized. It doesn't always work well, though. All right, so go back up here to building filler, make them 3D. And then let's turn on all our layers so we can see them all again. Okay. Now, that doesn't look so good, but if we grab the building, hit P, push it back into the distance, put it here, and look at this. See how the arrows are here, but my picture's here? That's the center piece of the picture, but the image I want to deal with is here. So what we can do is go up to this little marker thing here, pan behind tool is apparently what it's called. Click it, grab this, and you can slide that arrow over. And now the reference point of my image is right in the center, so that will come in handy later. All right, so let's duplicate this building and its, let me show you how I did that. Select the building and its filler, Control or Command D, duplicate, and then you're going to drag both those new files right up above. Okay, so now my new one is on top, my old one's on the bottom. Select just the building, pull him over to the side. Why don't we push him forward a little, put it down like this. Now again, if you're really doing this, you wouldn't just duplicate the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't look good. But for the sake of showing you, how I would do this, I would have colored in all those buildings and then made it like this. So let's push him way back, scale him up so it's kind of big. Okay. And why don't we make one of them, hit this little chain by the scale and see how it's all 55. Take this first one and do -55, and that'll turn him around. Now it gives it, just looks a little bit different than the other guys. So what I'm doing with these buildings is giving us more of a sense of 3D so that as you move, you can see that they're really out there in the distance. Okay, so what I want to do now is just give this one last touch of a 3D feeling. And again, this isn't what it would look like in the final animation, but it's just a way for me to show you the basic steps. So let's go over here. Yep. Go over here, grab the background layer, put it on top. This is the layer that I used for that red background. Now we're going to make this layer 3D, and then we're going to hit R, rotate it on the X axis to 90 degrees. Or it can be close. Sometimes it actually looks better if you're a little bit over, so you've got a little bit of a slant to work with. Take it by the Z axis here, bring it down, push it out here. Okay. Actually, let's go for 90. I think 90 is going to look better. Yeah. Bring it down again. Because see, I don't like it when it's up here. You can see that it cuts through these buildings pretty fakely. So bring it down. Push it back. Okay. Now what we've got is if you move, put our background layer underneath our camera. If you move the camera, you've got a sense of 3D with the ground as well. So let me show you how then you would finally do the animation itself. So say you're setting this to music. I've got a song here by a guy named Josh Woodward who does free music. You should check out his website, joshwoodward.com. Music that you can use for free. You just credit him. So here's your credit, Josh. Very, very nice of him to let his music be used for free. So I'm going to grab Hollow Grove, which is a song I've used before, and actually just bring it down and drop it right underneath all my stuff. Now, After Effects is not made for editing music, but you can twirl down this here and see your waveform if you have to. There we go, down here. And if you hold Command or Control, as you scrub through, you can hear your music. Now, you're not going to listen to the whole song this way. It's not going to be enjoyable. But what that does is if you've got certain cues in the song that you want to time up your video with, you can listen to it well enough to find that cue. So the music kind of comes in here. All right, so that's where I want to start this animation. So grab my camera handle and we're going to push it down into Z space here. Start right over the guy's shoulder as he's looking out. And we're going to hit a keyframe. So camera handle is what we're going to control here. Hit P, keyframe that with this little stopwatch. And what that does is tells the computer, at this point you need to be here, camera. And then we're going to scrub through. All right, so say we wanted to be, at this point on the song, we wanted to be out here. And down a little bit. And to the side a little bit. Okay, so what that did is it tells the camera now this is the movement you're going to take. Okay, that's really all these animations are. The pictures don't really move unless it's, you know, very rarely. Usually what's moving is just the camera. So you let this render. And that's basically it. You're setting up two-dimensional pictures that you've colored in three-dimensional space and moving this digital camera through that space that you've created. Lots more. There's a lot more trouble that you run into, and there's a lot more things that you can add or do, but this is the basics. So I hope that was helpful. I know it's not super duper exciting, but it's hard to give a tutorial for something that's there's so many different ways to go about doing it. But this is the basics, and if there are more questions, I'd be happy to make further tutorials in the future. So I hope this helps, and I hope ultimately that this will give you maybe some more freedom to use whatever skills the Lord's given you to glorify Christ in creative ways. So let's be praying that He would show us how to do that. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.